I'm Lauren Kling, and this is 5 Things That Changed Your Life. Each episode, I sit down with a special guest and ask them to share 5 stories, events, or experiences that had an impact on their life, like a person who helped them decide a path to take, or a place that completely transformed the way they think. Perhaps it was inspiration from a family road trip or a childhood TV show that helped them to make the person they are today. This week's guest, Devin Dugan.
We were on a trip somewhere. I think we were down in Madison, Wisconsin. My friend, who I had worked with at the time as a coworker, he was always just telling me, "Oh, you're so funny because you're so funny, man. You should be doing stand-up." He always was telling me, "You should be doing," like literally always was telling me that nonstop. And we had all gone out that night, and we're sitting in like this like bar, club, whatever. And it was an open mic night, so people could go up and play music. They could do poetry. They could just get up and bitch about whatever they wanted to do. I was sitting there with all my coworkers and stuff at the time, and the guy goes up on the stage. "All right, come up to the stage now. Ooh, we're gonna have some stand-up comedy. Devin Dugan." And where's Devin in the house? And I'm like, "Oh, what?" I heard my name. Like, the whole place starts applauding, including my table. Like, "Hey, he's right here, right here." I'm like, I turn to my friend. I go, "I'm not. Well, I got nothing. What am I gonna do?" He's like, "Just go up and tell some of those jokes you told on the way down in the van." I'm like, "Okay." On that whole night, I remember just lying in bed like, "Wow, that was fun." I don't know. It was just weird. It was a weird kind of feeling being up in front of those people.
Devin is an actor, author, stand-up comic, and improv performer based in Orange County, California. He's currently the artistic director of Improv City, an award-winning improv troupe based in Irvine, California. He recently released the book Improvisers Drawing Stick Figures, which is a collection of improvised doodles drawn by improv performers across the United States. Joining me, as always, is my producer, Alan Ng. How's it going, Alan?
Hello. It's going good.
Good. So we are on episode 9, and this week's guest is Devin Dugan.
We met Devin at National Comedy Theater in San Diego, where you and I were performers. Devin wasn't a full-fledged member. He would be there once in a while because he knew the owner, and he had done comedy sports in Green Bay. But when he got more involved in Second City, I kind of got to know Devin a little more because we both live in Orange County. And funny thing, when I started getting back into comic books, we would share the same comic book store, and so I'd see him there every Wednesday afternoon when the new issues came out. So what were the 5 things that we talked about?
The 5 things we talked about with Devin are, number 1, getting laid off from his day job, which then led Devin to start up his own improv troupe. Number 2, Devin's grandparents buying him the comic book Sad Sack number 282, which led him to a lifetime of collecting comic books. Number 3, discovering and listening to a cassette tape of Abbott and Costello's Christmas Stocking, an old-time radio show, which led him to wanting to learn more about the golden age of TV, radio, and film. Number 4, meeting his wife, who is Filipino, and learning about new cultures, foods, and experiences. Number 5, though Devin already had a bachelor's degree, he went back to school to get a paralegal certificate and started working in contract law for a little bit. And a bonus number 6, because we had such a great conversation, having a friend sign Devin up at an open mic night without Devin knowing, and when his name was called and he did his stand-up, he wanted to continue trying stand-up regularly. So here you go. Here's our conversation with Devin Dugan. All the way from Green Bay, then San Jose, then LA, and San Diego. You've been all over the place. Devin Dugan, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
So quick plug, Devin is the director. What title did you give yourself?
Owner and artistic director
of Improv City.
Yeah.
Where is that located?
In Irvine, California.
Awesome. Yeah. And you guys, how long have you guys been around?
It'll be 8 years in July.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Right. Shows every Friday and Saturday night.
Yeah, Thursday, Friday,
Friday, and Saturday night.
Nice. That's really good. As we were talking before the show, Alan and I know you from NCT San Diego, which is like short form comedy sports. So you've been doing improv for a long time.
Yes.
How long?
Over 20 years. I'd have to do the math to figure it out exactly. But it's been 20 plus years.
Wow. And that's one of the things you wrote down on your list was getting laid off of a day job that led you to start your own comedy troupe. And we'll get into all the things of your childhood and some fun things. But I wanted to start with that because oftentimes getting laid off from a job or quitting a job out of anger, if you're lucky, will lead to that moment in your mind where you're like, I need to fucking... I'm either going to get busy living or get busy dying moment.
Yep.
And this was yours. Will you talk about that?
Sure. Because I had been doing, improv with NCT and all different other stuff, and actually the Second City up in LA, and I was doing my day job as a contracts negotiator for a company. I didn't mind it. It was actually one of the few day jobs I ever had that I didn't mind. Mm-hmm. And I got laid off, and I had kind of retired from stand-up at that time because I was doing stand-up, and I just kind of got really burnt out of performing on the road and stuff. And so I was sitting around literally doing nothing but hanging out at coffee shops. And my wife's like, you should probably do something. Why don't you just try to teach some improv to people? We have some friends that we hang out with and stuff. And it's kind of how it started. We used to frequent this coffee shop, and we knew the baristas. We knew a lot of the people who were at the coffee shop. And one day I just went up to some people and said, hey, you guys ever want to learn how to do some improv, play some fun games and stuff? I'll teach you guys how to do this. And I was teaching children, literally children, ages 5 to 10, improv down in Aliso Viejo at this dance studio that was the one thing I was still doing. And I asked the lady who ran the studio, hey, mind if I have a different night to come down and just teach my friends some improv? And she said, sure, no, whatever. Cool. So we just started doing it, and then never had any plans to start a troupe or anything like that. We were just having fun. And one day we said, want to try doing a show? And we did.
Cool. And then when did you decide that you were going to jump into being a business owner?
It kind of just happened. I didn't really ever decide that. Like I said, we did one show, and it was like, oh, that was kind of good. It wasn't bad. We didn't suck as bad as we thought we would. Of course, it was all our friends and family that were there, right. So they tell you you're great. And we said, let's do another show next month. And we did another show, and then we did another show, one a month. And then finally, a couple people who saw the show were like, hey, can I be part of the troupe? I'm like, or a group? Oh, we're not really a troupe. We're just friends. And then we let them get in, and again, it just kind of all just fell into place. It was really serendipitous how it happened. Yeah.
There's a quote that I still am trying to figure out. Luck equals time plus preparation. And so were any of those three things or all of them in play as, the serendipity where things happen?
Definitely luck. I think was a big one because we just happened to find a place that would let us do a show, and then and time, definitely, because I had the time. I was doing nothing else. And what was the other one? Time, luck,
and preparation.
Preparation. Yeah, I guess it was preparation because I had to teach people how to do actual improv and learn enough games to put on a show.
Right, and you would put in your time, your 10,000 hours.
Yeah, like I said, I had been doing improv for so long. Before that, I had performed so many troupes: Comedy Sports, Comedy City, Idiot Central, Second City, LA Connection, National Comedy Theater. Just the list, on and on of different troupes I had been with over the years. So,
were they all short form, or did you do long form
both.
Heralds? You did
short form, long form, everything. Yeah.
Interesting. Alan and I, it was the one thing is, I think our artistic director was not a fan of long form because I don't think we ever did any long form there, or I don't think we allowed. Talking about Gary.
Gary.
I don't think we ever were allowed to do long form there unless.
There's definitely no intention at that time because he was still doing his short form shows.
Right.
And then the midnight shows came along, and that if there was a long form show, it became that's what it became.
It was still more of a dirty short form show.
That's how that started,
right?
Least, yeah.
So you've had this troupe for 8 years.
It'll be 8 years in July, yeah. And we do mainly short form, and then about a year and a half ago, we started adding Thursday night shows, and we do our short form. But after that, we do some type of a long form show. Usually, sometimes it depends. Sometimes we do, stand up comedy or a sketch show, or whatever. But generally, we do long form.
Wow. What does your wife think that it's been 8 years? How does she feel?
She loves it. Actually, she's part of the troupe. She's the creative director. And she had never done improv ever until when we started it way back when. She had no intentions of doing improv. She was actually kind of shy at the time and stuff. And And now, like, she's a complete opposite. She's just outgoing and a big ham on stage. And it's just funny. She's one of the people you see how improv changes your life. Like, she's one of them where it literally changed her life.
Wow. See, because my wife at home is very funny, very witty, oftentimes bests me, but she's a shy person and doesn't want to perform. But then again, she's great talking to people, and I think she would be one of those people that would kick my butt at improv. So this is a good story. All right. So next thing that I'm really interested in, there are a lot of things. Your list, you have a lot of things that you were introduced to or tried that changed your life. So we have a lot of them. I'm going to start with this one. You say, my grandparents bought me the comic book Sad Sack number 282, which led me to a lifetime of collecting comic books. I always love stories where there's something specific that you remember. So I don't know Sad Sack, but tell me about Sad Sack.
All right. Well, I guess I got to preface it first. My grandparents would watch me a lot when my parents were working, and there was this little convenience store in Green Bay that was down the street from where they were, and they would go there to get groceries, kind of like a mom and pop kind of place. I don't remember. I think it was called Le Captain's, like Le Captain's or something. And when you would walk in, as soon as you walked in, immediately to the left was this the magazine rack, and on the bottom shelf they had all these different comic books and stuff. And I was a kid, like, I don't know, 5, 6 years old. I forget what it was exactly, and my grandpa's like, hey, why don't you pick out a comic book? I'll get you one. It's like, okay, I didn't know what it was. And I'm kind of going through them, and he picks up Sad Sack. My grandfather had been in World War II. He was a veteran. And he's like, oh, here, get this one. He's like, Sad Sack, you'll like this. And I'm assuming he picked it because it's a military, it's a comic based, it was an old comic strip from way back in the day. And Sad Sack is this character who's in the army, and he's like a sad sack character. I remember I still have the issue, and I got it. I liked it, and pretty much it became a tradition that every time we'd end up going to this store, every time they would watch me, they would always buy me like one comic book. I would always just pick up one, and I had no idea what they were. I was literally just grab one that looked cool based off the cover, like, oh, this looks interesting, and I don't even think I actually even read them at the time. I was just like flipping through, looking at the pictures and stuff. But I kept them all, and now I have a collection of comics that's just ridiculously huge, like ridiculous. Like the long boxes of comics.
Right.
In my apartment, I have, this is an estimate, probably about 30 to 40, and then back in
of long boxes. And how many can you fit?
Oh God,
Like 200?
Probably at least 200,
150,
300.
Oh,
yes,
okay.
Maybe, I don't know, yeah. And then back in Wisconsin, I have probably another 40, 50 long boxes of just filled of comics.
And your parents haven't thrown them away? Because that
No.
seems to be the thing that parents are...
No, they kept...
No, but the silverfish got to them.
Yeah, we keep them all stored. I put them all in plastics and in boards and bags, but my thing is, like, I still collect comics. I stopped for a while while I was in college, and I just kind of quit and then got back into it. But a lot of the stuff I like to read are not like the current comic books. Like, I'm actually like a kind of collector part.
Okay.
Because a lot of the books I have are from like the 40s to like the 60s and 70s, all like the old TV show comics, movie comics, cartoon comics, like Hanna-Barbera, Bugs Bunny, like those, the ones that are not necessarily, I would say, sought after by superhero fans, but more by comic collectors.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Yeah.
I was at Meltdown last night, and they have comic books based on old 70s shows. Like they have Wonder Woman 77 based on the old Linda Carter. And I was like, what? They had Battlestar Galactica.
Oh, Beverly Hillbillies had their own comic book. Petticoat Junction. All these. Well, Welcome Back, Kotter had a comic book.
Atari.
Yeah.
Atari had with their 2600 Atari Force.
I just ran across my Laugh Olympics.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
I have the whole series, all 13 issues. As you can see, I'm a big Hanna-Barbera fan by my tattoos.
Well, we'll be sure to get a picture because those are some sweet tattoos. So, yeah, it looks like we grew up in the same period of cartoons and comic books of the early 70s and going into the 80s. And I collected. My brother collected Mad magazines. Actually,
yeah, me too. Yeah.
And
And Cracked.
And Cracked.
Yeah.
We had a couple of them. Like I had a Knight Rider one, but mostly Mad. And then I took it over from my brother. And then there was a couple summers when you talked about Le Captain. There was a place up in Grass Valley, California, that was a comic shop, and I'd go in and I'd start getting stuff that I thought was cool looking. But I stopped. It was really just a summer.
Yeah.
Or two of collecting. Tell me, what is it about comic books? One, as reading them as a fan to read them, and two, what is it just as a collector? Why so many boxes?
Well, it's kind of weird because, like I say, it started off with my grandparents, but then my dad kind of got into it, and him and I would go every Saturday or Wednesday, whenever it was, and go to comic shops and buy whatever. And it kind of became a little hobby with him too, where he says like the ones in Wisconsin he half owns, but I mean they're technically mine, but whatever. And I don't know, I just something for me, like I like the nostalgia thing. I'm a big, which you'll probably ask about later, find out. Like I'm a big fan of like old school stuff, like especially like the whole vaudeville, golden age kind of stuff, and I feel like comic books just kind of fall into that category. You know, you think of the old like 10-cent comic books and stuff like that, and just and I love that nostalgia thing. And I don't know, just maybe I'm kind of a kid at heart. I am, as always have been. Like I still watch cartoons and eat cereal, and for me, it's really just me keeping my youth, you know, and my connection to my childhood.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that was kind of like movies in those days where they were serialized. You know?
Oh yeah, I love the old serials.
You read through at the end, you had the big cliffhanger, and you gotta come back next week.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
And, you know, like when I was collecting comic books, it was similar to you, where you were just kind of pacifying time on a long trip. And then I remember my first real comic book was X-Men with the Hellfire Club.
Oh yeah,
it's like, wow, this is an intriguing story, and now it's like I've got to have the next one. And then you realize, wow, I have gaps in my comic collection now, and I gotta fill in those gaps, so I gotta go buy back issues.
I kind of felt that way when like Napster was around. You know, I had to have an album because I grew up with listening to a whole CD or a whole cassette or a whole album rather than individual songs. Right. And there was something missing if you got two songs and you didn't have the whole collection, the whole thing. So I totally get that.
Yeah, remember when they made albums and, you know, where they would do 12 songs and they had to think about what goes on side A, what goes on side B, and the order that goes in.
Well, vinyl's made a huge comeback. It's made a very big comeback, and a lot of things. At WonderCon, Disney had a whole booth on vinyl collectibles.
Yeah, that was great.
Which are picture discs. And so, so it's kind of what old is new again. Music is like that. I find, because I grew up with Depeche Mode, Erasure, Cure, a lot of the new wave. There's a lot of that influence in modern rock alternative, which I'm like, oh my God, this is rad. This is awesome.
Well, it's interesting, but now like music today is easy to produce. It's easy to write 12 songs, throw it on a memory stick or out on the internet. But back then there was care taken into it. You know, there was the cover, there was the order of songs, the liner notes, the cover designs and the program designs.
Right.
And that's just missing in music today.
Yeah.
So just to touch again on your comics, is there a comic, a collection that just epitomizes comic books for you?
Like one comic or one series?
One series, like a series is.
No, I mean honestly, no. I just
then okay. Let me rephrase the question. If somebody was intrigued and interested in comics, and you had to pick one series for somebody to jump into, and let's say it's your wife or it's my wife, somebody who's not necessarily, you know them as they love sci-fi or they love this.
Right. Well, because the superhero genre is like really big right now, a lot of people are liking that. If one series I do brag about a lot, which I thought was one of the best runs ever of a superhero comic book, was the Ed Brubaker run on Captain America. That's the whole thing where they brought the Winter Soldier back, which actually is popular right now in the movies and stuff. honest to God, some of the most greatest writing of a comic. And really justifying a character that was considered like the Gwen Stacy of comics. Like, this person will never come back, and then he came back and made it it worked so perfectly. It was justified, and you couldn't get angry. You just had to love it. So I would say that's the whole storyline, which was a huge run. But I would say
when did it come out?
Probably a few years ago. It wasn't that long ago. Maybe like 5-6 years ago. Maybe.
Yeah, like 2010.
Yeah.
So you can kind of equate it to this current second golden age of television, where there's amazing writing, great storylines, good acting. So kind of that same thing.
but it also seems like they're kind of going back to what they realize works and sticking with it, which I agree.
At least in TV.
Yeah.
Movies, unfortunately, to a lot of us, seem like it's, well, what is the world like? What is China like in a movie? And so I sometimes feel like our movies are made for overseas that just happen to be in English.
Right.
So here's something else that I found interesting, talking about collectibles. Discovering and listening to a cassette tape of Abbott and Costello's Christmas Stocking, an old-time radio show which led me to wanting to learn more about them, and then learning more and becoming obsessed with Golden Age TV, radio, film, vaudeville comedians, and we kind of touched on that. And as I've mentioned over the last couple months, I got back into listening to old-time radio shows, comedies, Fibber McGee and Molly, Jack
them.
Benny.
Yes.
And then I never listened to mysteries and crimes. Start listening to those, and I'll fall asleep to those. And it reminds me of my childhood when I would fall asleep to these radio dramas that came out in the 40s and 50s, long before I was alive. Can you explain why is it that us who grew up in the 70s and 80s love stuff that came before our time?
I think it's... I don't know. Personally, I got to think, because I think a lot of us, our parents are from the baby boom generation, and they were always. It's a lot of when it started, people having to go out, husbands and wives at that point, was they really started to have a 2-income family, and I think before that, around the World War II era, it was usually the guy who was just working, the wife would be home, and she would raise the kids. And I think because of that, the grandparents are a lot of ones who raised a lot of us. I know for me, I was with my grandparents most of the time during the day because my parents were both working. And I would just watch, I remember watching, Beverly Hillbillies, Andy Griffith Show, all that with my grandparents, and them telling me the stories of their youth and the people who they liked. And like, even though I was a young kid, I remember it, and the stories were just amazing. And that's my personal opinion. I don't know if it's right or not, but
Right.
Yeah.
When I think about, you mentioned Abbott Costello, and a lot of these, the comedy was much more thick and more dense compared to the 60s and 70s and 80s,
Right.
where comedy was very, punchline, set up punchline,
Right.
set up
Like
punchline.
a quick joke, laugh track kind
Right.
of thing. Yeah.
Now, Bob and Ray, Abbott and Costello, there were sketches and they were drawn out,
And even though they were intricate, there was a simplicity about them, which and I think there's this general, like anyone, no matter what age, who you were, what race, ethnicity, anything, you could just enjoy it because it was just a general audience comedy that everyone could enjoy and understand and get. There's just like this purity to it.
So, did you grow up Three Stooges? Fan of the Three
Yeah,
Stooges?
I'm a huge fan of Three Stooges. All of them. I remember Sunday mornings. We had this show. I was back in Wisconsin on Sundays, and every Sunday they would always show some old school movie. Mom, Pa, Kettle, the Blondie movies, Francis the Talking Mule, Abbott and Costello, Laurel and Hardy, Three Stooges, and I would just watch it. In fact, my parents always thought it was funny that I'd rather watch those than even watch like cartoons or something. I was just so into it. I just loved it, and I couldn't get enough of it. And even now, if you see my DVD collection, it's pretty much all black and white comedy movies, specials, things like that. That's the majority of it, because I just do everything I can to get those and recollect them and watch them over and over. I just do not get old of them. I love them.
Yeah.
I always think about, why is that stuff so funny even today? And comparing it even with today's comedy. Today's comedy, I feel, seems a little too sophisticated and a little too real and down to earth.
I think, I mean, for me, I think because back before film and TV, you had vaudeville. Before that, you had burlesque, and people would have to go town to town and show their acts, and you would, that's how you would see it. Then when film came out, these were kind of the ones who they're considered the pioneers, the ones that start, if you will, in a sense, like really on a broad mass level, were able to get their act out. And so there was nothing before that to set a precedent. They were the precedent. Everything from this point on had to come from what was done before, and they don't want to redo what's already been done. Right. They have to always find ways to re-innovate it and make it different or better or more sophisticated, as you say. So there's no way of ever going back to that simplicity. They have, like, I think just time in general forces you to have to keep bringing some up.
Because they were fortunate to have done it first.
Exactly.
Yeah. And being so famous. I mean, the Who's on First is the classic Ivan Costello bit. No one's ever been able to, duplicate it because it was already been done. It's been done to perfection, and it just doesn't make sense. And people always point back to it saying, "Well,
so I think it's just that was the first, and that's what it will always be compared to."
But even today, you look at live comedy, live theater, and in a way that's harkens back to those old vaudeville or old sketch and comedy, or when you have a burlesque show. Those are popular, kind of more underground things. But you have a burlesque show in L.A., every month where there's a comedian or there's a band and there's burlesque. There's something about being in a live venue that, at least for me, I still find fascinating and fun. It's in the moment, and I love interviewing live because there's that feeling of it's in the moment. Whereas TV, it's kind of, you're just watching it on a screen. Yeah. You're distracted by 50 other things.
And that's how I kind of feel like, because like I've done television, I've done movies and films, I've done all that stuff. But I've turned down so much work over the years too. It's like, no, I don't want to, because I like the live. I like being in front of a live audience. Like when I did stand up or improv or whatever. And in fact, I've had a lot of people tell me, "Oh, you're making a mistake. You should have done this." Like, that's okay. And like, yeah, I'm not, living in a mansion or whatever, but I'm happy. The things I've done make me happy.
Right.
And I look at that and like, and like, there's still certain things I will do every so often, but just I like the live audience. That's what I like. Yeah.
Yeah. Immediate feedback.
Yeah. It's just something about it. And maybe it's just because I'm such a fan of the old school, vaudeville and all that. I don't know. I just love and worship.
Do you see the current millennials? Do you see them attracted to a live? Do you see them looking at it in the same way we do, or do you see them looking at live theater improv in a different way?
Truthfully, no, I don't see them looking at it all because I'll talk to because I teach a lot of high school kids improv and stuff, and I'll ask them. They have no idea who Laurel and Hardy are. They've never heard of Abbott and Costello. They knew Lucille Ball, but just because she's still they play her a lot on TV and stuff. But even then, there's people not quite sure. And it just blows my mind that they have at one point you had they've never heard of Jack Benny, Red Skelton, and you think about it at the time, these were the biggest names in entertainment for 30, 40 years.
Right.
And now just nobody ever heard of them, no clue, nothing. And it just blows my mind. And I get it, it's a different generation and time. But it just makes me think okay, all these ones now Lady Gaga and Brad Pitt and all them, maybe 50 years from now no one's going to have a clue who they are. I don't know, it makes me sad.
Well, if you ask me, we'll name some of the top entertainers in the 1800s. I wouldn't be able to tell you. So we grow up with what we know. So who are millennials and people in their 20s and 30s? Who are their comedy touchstones now?
Yeah, I guess
Kevin Hart.
Yeah.
No. But I mean, for them, we're going back to the 90s, maybe the OOs.
So maybe a Seinfeld, Ray Romano type.
So
if even.
Yeah,
right.
That's true.
Which is, I think breeds a different kind of comedy just because that's what you know. So
one of the things I always tell comedians or young improvisers, whatever, one of the things I install in them, which makes me a little bit unique, I guess, is I tell them, go look these people up, because I feel you can't be truthful as a comedian, being on stage without knowing where, again, your roots of comedy come from back in the day. And I've had people who have gone and done it, and they've so thanked me about it. They're like, I'm glad you made me do that, because I never realized half the stuff I'm doing is not original. It's been done since way back when.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
It's interesting because it almost makes you've forced them to realize that while we are unique, we are also working in a field that's been covered for many generations, many decades. So
you're saying that comedians today are clever plagiarists?
Yes. Yes.
Yes, we are. All of us are saying that. You had mentioned earlier that your wife, you got into improv, and one of the things you put on your list was meeting your wife, who is Filipino, and learning about new cultures, foods, and experiences. So let's go back to how long have you been married?
It'll be 9 years in September.
And then how long since you first met her?
And we dated for about 7 years before that,
Wow,
actually.
so
yeah.
16 years.
Yeah, quite a while.
So how did you two meet?
Well, when I first moved out to California, I needed a day job because because comedy wasn't paying the bills at the time. And I ended up getting a job at what was Pacific Bell at the time, now AT&T. And she was working there as well, too, in the call center. And that's pretty much where we met.
Yeah. Love at first sight, or just
actually, she was dating a friend of mine. She was dating a friend of mine, and then they broke up, and we went out and hung out a couple times, and I knew she liked me, and I liked her too, but it was kind of the whole bro code, like, oh, well, you dated my friend,
right.
I can't do that kind of thing. But it ended up happening, and here we are.
Was there ever an issue with family that you were dating a Filipino girl?
Nah.
Was there an issue with her family that she was dating?
No, they love it. Actually, I'm the only white guy at all the family functions, and I mean, I hate to say it, but like they kind of treat me like so, like they'll prepare special food just for me because they know I don't really like Filipino food all that much. Like I'm not a big cultural food person.
They'll give you the fork. That's
they do. It's true. They go out of their way, and sometimes it makes me a little bit uncomfortable because I tell them like, oh, you don't have to make anything special for me, but they're just gonna do it anyway. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so I get a little bit of preferential treatment over like the other ones, which makes me, I don't know, I feel weird, but it's nice, I guess.
Right.
Without sounding like I'm a big white man, I know it sounds weird, but yeah, it's nice, I guess. But it's like, a little comfortable.
It's like in my family, one Thanksgiving, stuffing appeared for the first time after years and years of. It's like, why is stuffing here? And I realized, oh, it was for my wife.
Yeah. That's the other thing. They'll always have like for a while they would always have Filipino food, and then for some reason they just made burgers, and like, oh, why do they have like it was just for me, and I finally told them, I said, I'm not really that okay, but I'm not really a big burger fan. Then all of a sudden, like chicken just started appearing, and so I was like rotisserie chicken,
right?
Like,
yeah, well, isn't there like a chicken adobo dish?
Yeah, they have all that, but this is specifically like a grilled chicken breasts just for me or something like that, and nobody eats it except for me. I'm the only one over there.
So you're not big into ethnic
I'm not
foods.
No.
I mean Mexican food,
Taco Bell, and even that I get like a taco without lettuce.
So what? I mean, you live on American cuisine.
I like fish. Fish is my favorite food. I like like turkey, chicken. I'll eat burgers every so often. But yeah, I'm not. I like Italian food. I can handle Italian food, but I have a really sensitive stomach. So like Mexican food, any kind of Asian food. I'm one of these weird people that judges food by sight. I do. I see it and be like, I can't eat that, or I'll look at stuff like I can maybe try that, but I do.
Here's a bowl of Filipino SpaghettiOs.
I would probably try that.
You would try that?
Because I like Filipino spaghetti. They actually have a thing called Filipino spaghetti, and that's actually really good.
Got it. So
yeah. Oh, well, I was gonna say, what was it? What was it like getting into the family? And into the culture, was a lot of hesitation?
No, I mean it was fine. I was nervous because, from Green Bay, Wisconsin. I mean, it's a very white town. Okay, I mean, in all honesty, like if there's a black person in there, they're a Green Bay Packer, pretty much. I mean, that's I hate to say it, but it's true. That's that old joke in the town, like, oh, he must be a Packer player. I mean, it's gotten better since then, but just at the time, and like in the 80s and 90s, like that's how it was. And then to make it even worse, I went to college in a smaller town in Michigan, where like campus of 8,000 people, and that's all white people. So when I came out to California, it wasn't a culture shock, but it was like, but dating, I had never dated anyone who wasn't white, and then I started dating my wife, who was Filipino, and I remember the first time I went to a family function, and and I still laugh about it. I walk in, and they're all. I mean, they're very festive people, so they're like all come to there.
Right.
And I walk in, and in the living room, there's a few chairs and couches, and probably about 9, 10 guys were sitting all in the one room, and she goes through and introduces me to every single person. I shake all their hands, and afterwards I'm like, I don't know who's who. I literally, not to sound like I couldn't remember one single person. Which one? I don't know. It was a little overwhelming at first, but then like, you know, familiarity kicks in after a while. But just I remember that first time I was like, oh man, I felt so weird because I couldn't remember anyone's name. Like, did I meet you or not? Like, I don't know. Like, I'm sorry. I was like,
yeah, I think it could have been the Green Bay Packers lineup, and you would have been so nervous because you were being introduced.
Probably, yeah. And like I say, it was just,
yeah.
It was so for me, like, I don't want to use the word culture shock, but it's something I had never been a minority in a group setting before, and it was
Right.
like that was literally the first time, and I was fine. I wasn't uncomfortable. It was just I was trying to impress these people at the same time, so I felt really like, oh man, I'm doing a terrible job because I don't remember anybody.
Well, in all fairness, you know, you're trying to remember probably 30 names while they're trying to remember one name.
That's true too. Yeah, that's actually more like 50 names. There's like about 50 people there. Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what? My wife is half Mexican, and her family. It's like the grandparents. It always with the great grandparents and the grandparents who were raised to have large gatherings, and that's why I loved it. I loved when our family got together as a kid for, you know, Jewish Passover, for Thanksgiving. It's why I loved it when we would go see my wife's family for holidays to eat, because it's different. It's something different, but you have to be open to it. You have to want to love the fact that you're uncomfortable in a new situation. You're uncomfortable in new food. Some of them are not speaking in English, and so you're like, oh, they must be talking about me.
and they are.
Yeah. And the other thing is too, like, I'm an only child, so I mean that's the other thing too. Is like I don't have brothers or sisters. I don't come from a big family as my parents and I. So that was also kind of the weird thing as well too. Like, and I've always been, like I said, I did stand up comedy. I was always kind of just my own person on my own. Like,
Right.
I was always kind of a loner to that point.
Is there anything you think you've been taught marrying somebody from a different culture?
Oh yeah, a million different things, and that's one of the, like I say, one of the best things that really changed my life was just, you know, learning about, you know, just a different culture in general. It was really neat because her parents they came over here from the Philippines, so you know she's first generation and stuff. And I've just learned so many different things, and I think it's great. Like I've because of her, I've gone like to like Asian like supermarkets, Filipino restaurants, stuff I never ever would have experienced. True story. I never even tasted rice until 8 years ago.
What?
Yes, never. And then I just never, just because I never went to Asian restaurants, and just, you know, where else you don't go to like a Burger King and get rice. You don't know wherever you're going to go. And one day I said, I'm just going to try it, and I did, and I liked it, and I love rice. But just it's just weird. It's like foods I never. So yes, a lot of things changed.
How many rices can we name? I think among the three of us, we could probably pick at least 5. So white, brown,
Jasmine,
basmati,
Jasmine,
yellow.
Yeah.
Well, and then there's
rice
all that
pilaf.
crap.
Welcome to the 5 rices that changed your life.
That's all. 5 Rice Podcast. Hurrah!
Why, Alan? Does it always have to go with a row? Alan is first generation comedian. He still knew it. I'm kidding.
No, what I found interesting was, I mean, I've had rice all my life, but then I was introduced to American rice. You know, the Uncle Ben's converted, and it's just the worst rice ever. I cannot eat that
It's
stuff.
probably still from like World War II era when the good rice was rationed off and made into tanks.
Yep.
Yeah.
And leather. I don't know, leather pieces.
Leather pieces.
Well, we make good porridge out of rice. That's all I'm saying. All right.
You say, though I already had a bachelor's degree, I went back to school. All right, I just want to stop there. You went back to school to get a paralegal certificate and started working in contract law. So what made you want to go back to school?
This is when I had left AT&T and I was just doing comedy, specifically, stand up for most of the time. And again, like, when you're doing that, jobs are scarce. It's here and there. You work for a couple of days and they got nothing. And I just literally said, I'm going to just, because when I graduated, I actually wanted to go into politics. And then I realized, wow, that would be a mistake. So I didn't do it. But I've always kind of liked law, the aspect of it. So I went, and it was a 1-year program. Not even that. It was like 8 months or something. And I went in to just get a paralegal certificate, because I was originally going to go to law school. I got accepted like 3 law schools after I graduated, and I just said, I'm going into comedy instead. Parents still telling me that was a bad idea, but nonetheless. And I just said, well, I'm just going to do this. I'm not going to do the whole law school thing because I can't. But I would still like to get like some type of education in it. And then I did it, and actually started taking the classes with a friend of mine. And the two of us went through the whole program. And again, just kind of dumb luck or fate or whatever you want to call it, when we finished, she was the number one of the paralegal people graduating, number one in the class. I was number 2, so we like the top 2. And this company that when I eventually got laid off from when I started Improv City,
Right.
They recruited both of us right out of the college to come work for the company as contract specialists. So again, I wasn't really actively seeking a job. I was just going back to do it because something I always like to learn, and then it ended up turning into an actual day job. And then again, I mean, just kind of fell into place.
Right. What was your bachelor's in?
I have I can remember it's a Bachelor of Science in Political Science with a pre-law emphasis.
Okay, so your certificate was kind of in the same genre,
Right?
So you kind of were able to use your schooling from back then.
And this was the job that sustained you while you pursued comedy, or
yeah, I was there for 2 years maybe. So, and actually, that was that's the funny thing, because that's when I started working there. That was kind of the part where I was actually starting to get a little burnt out from doing stand up, and that's kind of when I kind of retired from it for a while. And so I wasn't doing comedy where I was just working that, but I was happy. I liked the job. I enjoyed it more than I've ever thought I would enjoy a day job, especially just reading contracts all day long, all the fine print, and but I liked it. But then when I got laid off, again, nothing was happening, and my wife's like, "You need to go back to doing what you like." So I did.
Yeah. Sometimes I think on our path to finding what makes us happy, we get lost because we have to pay the bills.
Right.
But we also forget that while we're in doing something we have to do, it's so we can do something we love to do.
Yeah. But it ended up also being a blessing in disguise, because then, like I say, I have my own company now, which I run, and by having that contracts background and knowing legal terminology, and and I know what a non-disclosure agreement is, I know what liability, indemnifying, I know what it is. It really, really helped me for when we are dealing with insurance or people who are hiring us out to do whatever, and they send us these contract stuff we have to sign, so I can send them back saying nope, not doing this. So
Yeah.
It really, I think, helped with our business in the long run.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this podcast, because there's all these things that we experience in life, sometimes more fun than others, but they all shape us in some way, and they come back to, well, sometimes bite us in the ass, but they come back to, like you're saying, they come back to help us in some way. And so I don't think experience is ever wasted. It's just sometimes put on a side burner for a while until it's called upon. So cheers to you.
All right, cool.
life would be so boring if we got what we wanted so early in life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Although I wouldn't mind that challenge,
Yeah, I'd be willing to take that too.
Right. Well, that's interesting thing is there's always the people who said as a little kid, this is what I wanted to do in life. There's nothing else I ever wanted to do. And you kind of look at them and you're like, F you. But sometimes it works out for them and sometimes it doesn't. But it's just, we feel like, well, that's not fair. We spent 10, 20 years going, I don't know what I want to do in life. I was doing voiceover and I had a lot of fun doing it. But I never said, oh, there's nothing else in the world I want to do, until I started doing live interviews. And I was interviewing a voice actress in front of a group of 70, and she's talking, and it was one of those TV moments where the person starts talking with an echo in their mind, and I smiled and I said, there's nothing else in the world I'd rather do. And I said I would give up voiceover just so I could interview voice actors. And, you know, it's an amazing feeling. Has that ever, to any of you, has that phrase ever crossed your mind in something you've been doing?
Well, for me, I'm kind of a weird anomaly because like I do something, but then like I don't want to say get bored with it, but I have to do something else too. That's why if you look at like my resume, I've done improv, stand up, acting. I've written books. I've been a DJ. I've been in bands. I have to do. I always am trying to find what else can I do artistically. Like I find all these different outlets that I just like to express and do, like create and
right.
So I can't. I think that's my thing. I would say like I've always wanted to do something. For lack of a better word, artsy. I hate that word, but artsy.
Right. Creative.
Yeah,
Do you get frustrated with something and then you move on to something else?
No, I hate to say, I actually get bored. Like right now, I have 2 different novels. Like I've written 10 books. I got 2 new novels I'm working on. I'm about 8 chapters into one. I'm about 20 chapters into the other, and I'll just like this is stop for. I just don't want to write anymore, you know. And eventually I'll go back to it, and then I'll finish it, and Or you know, even with improv, I'll do improv for a while, and I'm just not going to do the next. I'm not going to do shows for the next 2 months. I'm just going to watch. And I don't know. I always have to do different things. I don't know why I get too. It's weird. I know.
No. Well, it's weird, but it's fascinating because I've had lots of jobs that I've. I mean, it's easy to say I was rudderless, kind of, but I think it was scared that I'm not good enough. It takes too much effort to learn how to be good at this craft. I'm going to pick something else. I want to be a student my whole life because when you're in school, you don't have anything to worry about. You just go to school, you learn, and that's it. But when you graduate and you have to step out into the world, that's
Yeah, I think for me, passion was always the biggest thing. Like I've had jobs that, you know, my biggest job was one that provided me money, provided me benefits, but I had no passion for it. And it just really became clear near the end before I got laid off that I just didn't, that I had nothing to give. I had no motivation to succeed, to climb the ladder anymore. Partly because, you know, every weekend I'm heading down to San Diego performing improv and doing comedy. And then when I lost that job, got a new job, you know, realizing again, I have no passion to do this. This is not where I want to die. And yet here I'm sitting in a darkened desk, slowly dying. Right. And it was like, all right, you know, get out and do what you want to do. And, you know, just this past weekend performing improv, you know, there's just that moment where, you know, everyone on stage is clicking together and we're doing this amazing scene. And it's like, yep, that's why I'm doing this.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've done that too, where I've been like sitting in the cubicle or stuff, and it's just awful. I just the whole time I'm sitting there, all I'm thinking is I'm not doing what I want to be doing, mm-hmm. and that's why I've kind of been fortunate enough. I say my wife still works at AT&T, so you know, and she's the main provider. But I mean, I get to do this and pursue what I want to do while still making money at it. But just it's and that's I'm really fortunate to be able to do this now for a living.
Yeah.
So.
It's a balancing act between being able to pay the bills and being able to feed that your soul
right
with things you want to do.
And that's the toughest thing. You know, some people can afford to or are resourceful enough to live in poverty and until they hit that dream, hit that goal, and you know, then the rest of us have families.
Yes, or cats.
Yeah,
lots of cats. Cool. One more.
Sure.
One more. All right, Devin, you said you had a friend sign you up for an open mic night without you knowing it. That is effed up.
Yeah.
This was to go do stand-up, but then your name got called, and it didn't turn out as bad as...
It was still pretty bad.
Considering.
You're right. I was working... this was way back when. I don't remember what year it was. It was 90s. And I was in Green Bay, and we were on a trip somewhere. I think we were down in Madison, Wisconsin. And I was working for a lobbyist organization at the time. And we had all gone out that night, and we're sitting in like this like bar, club, whatever. And it was an open mic night, so people could go up and play music. They could do poetry. They could just get up and bitch about whatever they wanted to do. And my friend, who I had worked with at the time, as a coworker, he was always just telling me, "Oh, you're so funny because you're so funny, man. You should be doing stand up." He always was telling me you should be doing, like literally always was telling me that nonstop. And I'm like, no. And then at night, he's like, "Yeah, you should go up there, tell some jokes." I'm like, what am I going to tell? I got no jokes. I know nothing. So he's like, "I'm going to go get a drink at the bar." Goes up, and the jerk puts my name down the list, stand-up comedy. So I was sitting there with all my coworkers and stuff at the time, and the guy goes up on the stage. "All right, come up to the stage now. Ooh, we're going to have some stand-up comedy. Devin Dugan." And where's Devin in the house? And I'm like, what? I heard my name. I'm like, what did he say my name? He's like, yeah, okay, let's go. And the whole place starts applauding, including my table. Like, "Hey, he's right here. I'm like, I turn to my friend. I go, I got nothing. What am I gonna do? He's like, "Just go up and tell some of those jokes you told on the way down in the van." I'm like, okay. So I go up and I say something and just silence. Say something else, just silent. And then I said something and it was like one of those like pity laughs, like like you hear like people start kind of laughing uncomfortably. Well, but the funny thing is the whole time while I'm up there and I'm just bombing, I see all I'm doing is I'm just focusing on my one table, and specifically my friend who signed me up, and he's just got the biggest smile on his face. He's just laughing. I don't know if he's probably laughing at me as opposed to with me.
Right.
But and then my other table are all kind of laughing and stuff too. And I just focused on, it was weird, like one of those moments. I focused on just them and that energy, and even though I could tell it was going awful, I was just having so much fun. At one point, I'm not even joking, I thought it'd be funny. I took out a napkin and blew my nose in it inside in the microphone, like, "Oh, look," and really loud, made a honking noise. That's how bad that act was. All right, it was like that bad. And I did like 2-3 minutes, and then I got off the stage, and like, people were like, "Oh, yay!" All right. And I got back to the table. My friend's like, "Oh, I can't believe we did it." Blah blah blah. It was fun. And on that whole night, I remember just lying in bed, like, "Wow, that was fun." I don't know. It was just weird. It was a weird kind of feeling being up in front of those people. And when we got back to Green Bay, I started like just looking up different like open mics and stuff, which it wasn't really any. I think it was like one. And I ended up starting my own open mic.
Really?
Yeah, I went to this bar. I said, "Hey, would you guys mind we do like an open mic kind of stand-up comedy night?" And I ran it, and then it started getting some popularity. And then I actually approached the University of Wisconsin Green Bay because they had the student union, and they were looking to bring different stuff in too. And I said, "Hey, how about having an open mic night on there?" So I ended up, within a period of like 2 months after that, running 2 open mics.
Wow.
And there was none in Green Bay at the time. Like literally, there was none. And I was running 2, and they were both kind of...
And you had 0 minutes of material?
0.
Wow.
0. And it gets even weirder because I saw it really quick if I can tell this story, because I think you'll find this even more fascinating, which I don't know why I didn't put this on the list. So I started doing it for about 6-7 months. And I'm starting to get a little bit good at it. I feel more comfortable. I was decent at that point. And then I started getting some opener stuff. I started trying, and there was Zany's Comedy Club down in Chicago.
Right.
They were looking for someone to come down and do like 5 to 8 minutes as an MC opening. And they gave it to me. I was like paid like $50 or something. I lost so much money because I had to pay for a hotel, driving down there. Like I think I spent like $500 to make $50. But here's what works out. While the feature act was on that night, I'm in the green
The feature act is the
middle act.
Right, the middle.
So I'm opening. And then there was a head in the back room. The headliner was a comedian named Kevin Matthews, who I don't know if you're familiar with him. I don't think he does comedy anymore, but he was a very big comedian from Chicago. And we started talking, and it turns out he's from Oshkosh, Wisconsin. And he's getting ready to go out and do a college tour for NACA. NACA was the National Association of Collegiate Activities.
Right.
And he was looking for an opening act. And we just kind of hit it off. He's like, "You want to be my opening act?" I'm like doing comedy for like 6, 7, 8 months at a time. I'm like, yeah. And he took me out on the road for a few months doing these shows. And I went from performing these little open mics to being in front of crowds of like 2,000-3,000 people like that with crappy material, nothing. But he helped me to work on my material and stuff.
Right.
And by the end of that thing, it was just amazing. I literally worked and became a stand-up comedian, in my opinion, like overnight. Like it just happened to work that way. And I came back, and then I had so much more material, so much more confident. I started booking all these things, and then I started doing stand-up and starting getting other gigs all around the country. So it was just stupid, dumb luck. I happened to be there the night that he was performing.
So that's in the luck equals time plus preparation. That was luck and no time and no preparation, but pure luck.
Yeah.
And you can Google Devin's nose blow in the mic routine.
That's right.
Oh, is it online?
No.
Oh, man.
Oh, God, I hope
Would you do
not.
it for us here?
Huh? I don't think I can still do it. I don't remember.
Can you? You can't.
Yeah, what was the setup again?
I think I just took out a handkerchief. And
Devin, come on, go up on stage. You're really funny.
Blow your nose again.
Blow your nose.
Yeah, it was.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, it was, and so I mean, so that one night of me just going up on stage when my friend put me up led me to a few months later getting to tour with with a headlining comic on a national comedy tour.
Wow,
it was just insane.
That's amazing.
And I probably otherwise would have never. I don't think I ever would have pursued doing that.
Yeah. You still talk to the guy? Is he on Facebook?
Because I left the job. I don't remember his name even.
Wow.
So take that, Bernie Madoff.
On that note, Devin, thank you very much for being on the show.
I appreciate it. It was fun.
My thanks as always to my producer Alan Ng and to this week's guest, Devin Dugan. Check out Devin's new web series, 40s Shorties, coming soon to YouTube. And if you're in the Orange County, Irvine area, check out Improv City Online for show tickets and more information. Devin's book, Improvisers Drawing Stick Figures, is now available on Amazon.com. Thank you also to our sound engineer, Sammy Junio, of the Hello Lion Face Podcast Network. Music by My Monthly Date. Subscribe to 5 Things That Changed Your Life on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast service. And go ahead and leave us a nice review if you'd like. You can follow us online at 5thingspodcast.com or on Facebook at facebook.com/5thingspodcast, that's FIVE, or on Twitter at 5thingspod, that's FIVEPOD. For 5 Things That Changed Your Life, I'm Lauren Kling.